We're using the limestone to rebuild this temple, and then we take the pieces of medunetter, the pieces of the fragments of this tomb that we found, and we insert them into the pieces of limestone. Right? So it's a very tedious process. We have to date found 27,000 fragments. And each of these fragments have to be, the location of that original fragment has to be determined, and then we put it back into its proper place. So it's taking us some time to do that. And time is money, as you all know. We have a team of about 70 people who work for us. People are doing the excavation, people are doing the stone cutting, people are doing the restoration. So we got to meet payroll every Thursday. It costs us $10,000 a month, and we're there 4 months out of the year. And those prices are escalating as we find more things. There's more work that needs to be done. So the role of the Asa Restoration Project is to raise the funds to finance the restoration of this tomb. Right? That's what we've been doing since 2008. So all the work that I'm showing you all was accomplished because of African-American dollars, African-American support for this project. So, Brother Matu, I appreciate you helping the project move forward.
Appreciate you, brother.
Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. So here's a photograph taken from 2010, July 2010. We completely excavated the first pillared hall, and then we covered up the pillars with mud bricks to protect the area as the workers are moving in and out with heavy equipment so we don't damage them. And then we concentrated our efforts in excavating in the second pillared hall. So this is a photograph from 2010. This is 2012, once we completely excavated the second pillared hall. The second pillared hall is comprised of 4 pillars, which also collapsed. We just have the stumps. And then we have the end of the tomb here, which is the western wall. So here's a photograph from last year, okay? And so each of the pillars is being reinforced by a steel beam, which will allow us to put the limestone blocks and the medunetter around the structure so that it's more stable and less likely that it'll fall apart. And we've begun reconstructing the western wall in this tomb. But I want you to take note of this opening here. This was the entrance to the main burial compartment, which we discovered in 2010. So here's the steps leading down to the burial compartment. Now, I want you to visualize this. The tomb is 20 feet underground. These steps take you down another 10 feet into the burial compartment. And in the burial compartment, there's a shaft that goes further into the earth, another 27 feet. So just to show you what you're looking at the top of the staircase here is a wall covered with pyramid text. So this is pyramid text from the Pyramid of Unas, brother. This is what I was telling you about earlier. This is the oldest religious text about creation in existence, written at least 500 years before the birth of Abraham. And we've got this in Karakamun's tomb, which means that during the 25th dynasty, when this tomb was being created, African architects, engineers, and designers had in possession the knowledge of their ancestors who lived 2,000 years earlier, and Karakamun supervised the installation of the best of his ancestral knowledge into his temple tomb so that we could find it. All right? That's the deal, so that we can find it. Because none of this stuff began to be uncovered until we came on the scene. So we need to be clear about what's happening. We need to be clear how the ancestors have positioned us at this particular point in time to begin the process of taking control of our lives. And it takes breath and energy to do that. All right? So here's a photograph of my daughter in 2010 as she's descending this ladder to go down into this 27-foot deep shaft. Now, at the time, we didn't have a 30-foot ladder, so we did the next best thing. We tied 2 15-foot ladders together. And we went down into the main burial compartment of Karakamun. And as we both stood at the entrance to that burial compartment at the bottom of the shaft, 70 feet below ground level, I told my daughter, baby, I want you to go in first so you can be the first African-American in history inside of the tomb of Karakamun. All right? So this is how we create history. You don't have to ask anybody for permission. we pay to play. So we're there. We're there. So this is what we found inside of the burial compartment. And the thing about this photograph is that the floor to ceiling height in this burial compartment is 10 feet. But you can see my head is almost touching the ceiling because we're sitting on a pile of debris. This is what happened. The residents of this village had robbed this tomb. And then they filled the tomb and the shaft with debris so that we would have to hire their relatives to excavate it. Oh, wow. All right, that's the Egyptian hustle. That's the price of doing business in Egypt. That's how it is. So if we want to get access to this material, this is what we have to go through. And, you know, it's such a shame, but as we were excavating the shaft, we found the carcass of a dead water buffalo. Imagine this. These people have no faith in our ancestral history of culture, no respect for the history and culture. They would put the carcass of a dead water buffalo in this shaft. So we have to be very clear about who we're dealing with and what our responsibilities are to restore this information, what it's going to take for us to do the work. My daughter and I spent a week, the two of us spent a week down in this place, 6 hours a day from 6 in the morning to noon for 6 consecutive days. And we're there having some serious daddy-daughter time, talking about the events that led to us, the first father-daughter African-American archaeological team in history, down in this place, finding things, talking about what it meant, you know, and what it took for us to get there. Really, really transformative discussions. But I want you all to see this image of Newt here on the ceiling, the netter who represents the sky. But more specifically, this image of Newt is a cosmological star map. This is an accurate portrayal of the nighttime sky. And on the southern part of the sky, on this part of the tomb, actually on the southern part of his burial chamber, are the stars that represent the specific location in the heavens as written in the so-called pyramid text, where the souls of the deceased go to be reborn. And that is the constellation of Sahu, the constellation that we today refer to as Orion. And it's the first star in the belt of Sahu, which our ancestors said is the exact spot in the sky where the souls of all of the deceased go to be reborn. This is us. This is what we said before somebody else came in and discovered us, right? Enslaved us, stole our knowledge. So this is another photograph from last season, and I want to focus in on this wall here. This is one of my proudest accomplishments. Looks a little different, doesn't it? This is the western wall of the tomb. This is an area that contemporary Egyptologists refer to as a false door. We have here the image of a sar standing inside of the false door. But if we are African-centered, we realize this is not a false door, this is a spirit door. This is a door in which the Ka, or the spirit of the deceased, will go from the physical dimension into the spiritual dimension, the metaphysical dimension, and it's not a one-way journey. See, all around this doorway, let me show you this image, all around this doorway here is offering scenes where the priests who are part of Karakamun's organization are bringing offerings to a Sar, asking him to receive the spirit of his brother Karakamun so that he can journey into the beautiful West and begin his journey into the next life. Now, the beauty of this is a tomb. This is the tomb portion of Karakamun's final resting place, but there's also a temple attached to the front of it. So what that meant is that this place was not sealed after he died. This place was used continuously so that those who Karakamun left behind could have access to his spirit. Evoke his name, pour libation, and invite him to come back into the world of the living and share with them knowledge and information that would help them overcome any obstacle. That's why we have to breathe in order to allow our ancestors to move through us. So we have, in 2012, we restored the spirit door. We opened the portal into the ancestral realm. All right, the Stargate. So I want you all to understand what we are doing right now. I want us to understand what we now have access to. And let me just ask you, have you all heard about this on CNN? No. Read about it in Jet Magazine, Ebony Magazine? All right. So there's a lot of good works being done, but they don't talk about that. So we need to know what's going on. We need to be able to get the word out because we cannot rely on our enemies to tell the world of the good that we're doing. So this image of Asar, and it's a partial image, we found this portion, the upper torso of Asar, at the front part of the tomb. The robbers had taken it out, and something happened. They dropped it, and it broke into 3 pieces. We found this crown of Asar, the white crown of Asar, in a shaft in an area right nearby. We don't know where the head is. The head is probably in somebody's private collection in Paris, in Germany, or London. Okay? But last year, our goal in commemorating the 7th year of the transition, the ascension of Asa Hilliard, one of our main projects was to restore the face of Asar. So this is part of the Asa Restoration Project. Restoring Asar, restoring the sacred space of Karakamoon, and letting our ancestors know that we have not come here as tomb robbers. We've come as tomb restorers. We've come to open the door so that you will know we have not forgotten you and that we are prepared to receive your spirit. Right. So, Rupert Murdoch. Forget Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch doesn't count in my world. He doesn't count. He doesn't count. So while we were there last year, we also had a meeting with the governor of Luxor. And so we wanted to meet with the governor to let him know that African Americans are coming here not just as tourists. We're coming here to finance an excavation. We're coming here employing your people. In times of economic distress, we are employing 70 of your people, making it possible for them to put food on the table, clothes on their children's backs. And so they acknowledged us, they thanked us, and he gave us some commendations for doing the work. So this is Dr. Finch, Charles Finch, who was with us last year. This is my daughter, Atlantis. And then we extended an invitation to the governor of Luxor to come and visit our site, to come and visit the first excavation that is being funded by African American dollars. 2 days later, he showed up. We gave him a tour of this site and blew his mind. You know, so we now have cultivated another layer of relationship with the Egyptian government. So we're not just coming there as tourists, we are helping to finance the tombs, and then we talked about developing this area and making it the first Kushite site in Kemet to be restored by African American dollars so that we can leave a permanent spot in Kemet to show the world what African Americans are doing. All right? We're not just talking about our ancestors, we are restoring their sacred land. So, as I wind down, let me share with you a new and exciting project, a part of the Asa Restoration Project. So this is the entrance to the tomb of the mayor of Waset, Karabashkin. So his tomb was the first Kushite tomb in Kemet. So just to give you a framework, Waset was the capital of Kemet, and this man Karabashkin was the governor of Waset. Waset at its height comprised an area of 285,000 acres. A city 2.5 times larger than New York City with all 5 boroughs, 13 times larger than Washington, D.C. So this brother was the mayor, the governor of this territory, which meant that he was probably a member of the royal family because these were patronage jobs that was usually given to royalty, all right? We don't know very much about him because the Arab residents of this village lived in his tomb. They literally cooked inside of his tomb. The inside of his tomb is covered, the ceiling and walls are covered with silk, with soot. The women washed clothes inside of his tomb and nailed clotheslines into the walls with metal netcher, hung the clothes to dry, and as the clothing dried, the water dripped into the dirt. It increased the humidity within this small space and caused all of the carvings to fall off. So there is nothing left to salvage in his tomb. So we're blessed that Karakamun's tomb collapsed because it saved it from a similar fate. But here, they actually built a mud entranceway, and they had a door here to keep people out of his personal tomb, right? So last year, we dug out the original entrance, the staircase, to access the tomb of Karabashkin. So here's a photograph of that staircase. Incredible staircase. All of this is limestone, carved out of the living limestone bedrock. And this is the inside of that tomb, right? This is a photograph taken from 2006. So these were all pillars, and these Arabs used this space as a quarry to build their houses. They had no respect for what was in here. All of this was perfectly smooth when it was done and decorated. There's nothing left to salvage. And so since we have this empty space right next to Karakamun's space, we decided to use this as storage for the fragments that we found in Karakamun's tomb. So this is what it looks like now. Right? We got 20,000 fragments. Shells on the floor, placed in different areas based on where we found them in the tomb. So when the conservators begin to rebuild a specific part of the tomb, they know where to go in the storage area to find the pieces that can be used to rebuild that pillar, that pilaster, or that wall. All right? Remember that room? That room looks familiar? This is where the people who worked in our mission would do their work in the tomb. The tomb is 20 feet underground. It's about 20 degrees cooler inside the tomb than it is outside. It gets like 110, 115 degrees. So you can be nice and comfortable inside as you're doing data entry or registration. And this is what our teams do on a regular basis.
So you guys got electricity on site?
Oh yeah, no, we had to bring in electricity to the site. We run extension cords everywhere we're working. So here's an aerial photograph that was taken from a hot air balloon flying over this site in this photograph is from 2013. So what you see here is Karakamun's space. Here is the open air sun court. This is the temple portion of his tomb. There was a doorway here which led into the first pillared hall. There was a door here which led into the second pillared hall, and the steps which lead down into the burial compartment are here. Here is the original staircase that allowed us access to Karakamun's tomb, which we uncovered in 2012. And then here is Karabashkin's tomb, which we hadn't started excavating in. So this is from 2013. Here's a photograph of the same site last year. All right. So you see here we have excavated the steps leading into Karabashkin's sun court, and we began excavating in his sun court. So here's an enlargement of that site. And you can see here, give you a sense of scale, here are people moving inside of this space. Okay? So, and this is a photograph from 2013 of members of our group walking in this area. We were walking over this space, and there are tombs everywhere in Egypt. You don't know what you're walking on. You have no idea what you're walking on, and it's only when you start digging below the ground that you begin to find things, incredible things. According to Zahir Watts, less than 10% of the tombs in Egypt have been found. Less than 10%. So we could literally spend the rest of our collective lives digging in the Nile Valley and find things. Okay? So let me show you, every year we're finding things. Every year it is as if the ancestors are pleased with our presence there. So at the end of every season, they give us a gift to thank us for being there and to encourage us to raise some more money so we can come back next season and get other gifts. So at the end of last season, in September of last year, as the workers were digging in this area right here, they found a hole in the wall. And as they dug out an opening in the wall, they found a room filled with mummies. Mummies. All right. So the room is also filled with flood debris. So when the entire area was flooded, then you had all of this water and mud and sand come down the mountain and fill this area. So this, we assume this ceiling is about 10 feet. So we see here about 5, 6 feet of flood debris. And within the flood debris, we have mummies. And this is a wooden mass sarcophagus with gold leaf on top. So we ended the season by discovering this room, but we really didn't have a chance to go inside and remove anything. So we'll begin our season in 2015, in May of 2015, investigating this room. And we don't know what we're going to find in this room. And we haven't even reached the bottom, the floor level of the open-air sun court in Karabashkin yet. We don't know what other treasures are there waiting for us to uncover. So this is another photograph of the original village. And once we were able to prove to the Egyptian government that this was an actual archaeological site, then the government tore down all the homes and relocated everybody in the village, built them new houses, gave them, running water, indoor toilets, and all the air conditioning and all that stuff. So we now have unfettered access to this site, and this is what it looks like now. So in 2013, after a lot of the debris was removed, we discovered that the houses that were built on this elevation here were all built over basements, right? And each basement comprised a cave. And in each cave was a tomb. So we stopped counting at 27 different tombs. So what we now have realized is that this entire area was a Kushite necropolis, and that the temple tomb of Karabashkin, the temple tomb of Karakorum were the anchors of this necropolis. And we have all of these tombs of people who may have been family members, may have been employees, who wanted to be buried near these very important personalities. We do know, based on the evidence that we've uncovered in Karakoram's tomb, we are 98% sure that he was the son of Shabaka, the second king of the 25th dynasty. So he not only was he a priest, but he also was a prince. And he was the first Ak priest at Apet-Aset Karnak temple, and his job was to evoke the name of Amen in the Holy of Holies, to evoke the presence of Amen, the unseen presence of the Creator, into his Holy of Holies, so that his spirit could literally inspire the 83,000 people who worked in the largest temple ever created by human beings on the planet. So this man was an important man. His temple tomb was an important site, and we now have total access to it, right? So as we move into the next phase of our fundraising, this is something we're going to roll out next month. We intentionally waited until after February to do this because it takes more than 1 month to celebrate our history. So we're going to talk about this and showcase this next month, and then we got some other things we're going to roll out in April, and then May we're going to begin we're going to open up the tomb for the 2015 season. But our goal for this next fundraiser is to build a retaining wall around Karakoram's tomb, and we're going to sell blocks so that those who wish to purchase a block that will be inscribed with your name, the name of your family members, the name of an ancestor, the name of your organization, your church, your institution, your fraternity, your sorority, can be inscribed on a block that will rest at a site in between the Valley of the Kings and Valley of the Queens. And so we're developing, we're working on finalizing this project and got some major folk with some big bucks interested in helping us support and promote this project. So we'll be rolling this out next month. And so this is an aerial view of the site. Here is the staircase taking you down into the vestibule. The vestibule leads to the open air sun court, the temple portion of the tomb. Here's the first pillared hall, here's the second pillared hall. So what we're working on unveiling is the price points for the 5 different zones where you can buy a block as small as 3 inches by 7.5 inches, which is about the size of a brick, to a block 22 by 30 inches, where you can inscribe up to 12 names. So we're going to be rolling this out next month, so just stay tuned and we'll give you information about this. So as we wind down, this is the essence of the Asa Restoration Project and how you can support us. We are a 501c3, a tax-exempt organization. You can make a contribution to the Asa Restoration Project and write it off. So we are always looking for people who are willing to sign up and participate in excavations. We work in concert with the Egyptian government. Ours is an American-Egyptian mission. And so it is an application process that one has to go through in order to participate at the site. And it's not anything really complicated. We just need to process the paperwork so they know who's there doing the work. So we ask for volunteers to come over and dedicate at least 2 weeks during the summer. We usually are there in July or August. We ask for people to, volunteers to devote at least 2 weeks to work at this project, and we only need people who are willing to do the work and not complain, because it's hot, it's dirty. We have an apartment that we rent, and sometimes the electricity goes out. But it's only 2 weeks. It's only 2 weeks. So if you're willing to be a part of this project, you can go to our website and get information on the application process. If you don't want to do the hard work and the sweat, you can make a contribution. Up until 2 years ago, it was costing us $10,000 a month. $40,000 a year for the 4 months that we're there. But as we are expanding our work, we're going to need additional money. So the idea is if we have people who are willing to pledge $10 a month, $120 a year, 400 people will give us enough people to finance the excavation over the last 2 years. But now we're going to need something in the neighborhood of $60,000 to do this additional work and to rebuild Karakamun's tomb while we excavate Karabaskin's tomb. And we have long-term goals to build a Kushite Kemetic Visitor Center at this location. So this is the new fundraiser we're going to be unveiling. Another thing that we're doing is creating what we call cultural circles, action-oriented study groups, where we can share with communities all around the country the information that we're uncovering so that we can begin to articulate our history, our culture, and make this knowledge available so that people can go into schools, churches, communities, and organizations and tell the world what we're doing. We don't have to argue with Rupert Murdoch. We don't have to argue with Ridley Scott. We do our work, and the ancestors will see to it that the truth is out here and they're vindicated. That's how we do this thing. So I want to close by reciting some words that Benjamin E. Mays often shared with this student. And it is most apropos because it's a reminder of what it is we should be doing. He said that minute by minute, life is just a minute.